Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Al-Azouzi from easymedicaldevice.com, and today we'll talk about relationship between quality and regulatory affairs and other departments, and this time the department is software development for medical devices. We have done the same type of subject with Omar Kateb before. It was relationship between quality and regulatory and marketing also. And here we'll do that for software and development. And for that, I have with me Christophe Girardey from Wega. So Christophe, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hi, Munir. Thank you for having me.
Great. So really, thank you for coming. I will just ask you maybe a small introduction of yourself so that people really understand who you are and what you are doing. And then we can deep dive on this interesting topic of how to connect, if I can say, software developers and quality and regulatory affairs people.
Sure, happy to do so. So my name is Christoph. I have a background more in software development. So I started my career as software developer, and I've always been working in regulated industry. Before I joined medical device and pharma environment, I've been working as a programmer in air traffic control area. So as you can imagine, it's also highly regulated. So I've been developing radar displays for air traffic controllers. So you can imagine if you have some issues with quality, that could be really also problematic.
Exactly.
And after 4 years of being software developer, I changed to the other side of exactly what we are discussing on the quality assurance side. So I've been doing that in air traffic control area. And now since more than 10 years now, I'm with Wega. And Wega, we are a service provider specialized in life science industry. So life science includes pharma and medical device especially. And in that area, I'm helping customers exactly to solve the challenges of exactly what we are going to discuss. So
exactly.
Where to draw the line between software development, quality, how to be efficient, but still compliant, and how to still enable innovation by not preventing developers to do that job.
Exactly. Yeah. I as I said, I met you, and we also looked at your company, and I suppose you have a lot of experience of relationship between consultants that are doing more activities of software development, and also people that are more in the quality field. So it's really great. But before to start, mainly to deep dive on the problems itself. So I wanted just that we are, from your point of view, as you have this experience. So what is the difference in terms of objectives for each of those parties? So for example, if we talk about software developers, what they have really in scope, and if you see quality, what is or quality and regulatory affairs, what they have also in scope. So that just to see first that maybe the objectives are not the same also for them.
Yeah, exactly. And this is maybe the main aspect is that usually software developers, they want to drive innovations, they want to develop nice software, they want to bring new solutions, but they are usually not so much interested into creating documentation. On the other hand, quality assurance, regulatory affairs are more there exactly to be the safeguards and provide ensuring compliance to all the different regulations, and are usually asking a lot of documentation to be created. This is exactly the place where I see a kind of, maybe not a conflict of interest, but maybe a difference in terms of expectation into why we are here and what is your role and responsibility within the company.
But if you look at the highest objective, they have the same. The objective is to provide a reliable software that is conformed and that is good. So it's just the way to obtain it is maybe different, but the objective, the main objective for them is the same.
I think you're absolutely right. So we are working with the health of patients here. So normally we should all have the same interest at the end, that we provide products that are efficient and safe and that help the patients. So that should be fulfilling the same objective. And this is maybe what is often misunderstood, is that product development, a part of that is software development, but having just a good software working well is not enough in the industry we're working with. And I think this is often also misunderstood because of different backgrounds, because software developers do not necessarily see the whole compliance aspects. On the other end, we have also a background difference with regulatory people, because they usually don't understand so much of what software developers are really doing. Methodologies they work with, like agility, or more technical aspects, like how do they do deployment of new versions. You might have heard about CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. All these aspects, usually also regulatory affairs, do not understand so much in the details. And this is where I see that maybe both worlds should make some steps in each other direction.
Exactly.
To ensure at the end that the full product is fulfilling what it's supposed to do, not just the software behaving well, but as well the documentation and the regulatory compliance reached.
And we can also see that with the new regulations that are now coming into force, there is an increase in demand of this documentation, of this traceability with medical devices. Before it was more software, like as medical devices were more class 1, so there is no notified body, so it was like easy to place them on the market without really any barrier. Now with the new regulation, there is a need of notified bodies for some of them. So then here, the traceability of documents, the information, the cyber security, all those things that will be reviewed by the authorities will be needed. So I think this change also in terms of the regulation is also increasing, if I can say, the frustration between the both groups then.
Absolutely, and we also frequently had the case with customers that, for example, the software was first developed, not necessarily with the intention of certifying it with notified body, but sometimes even not to classify it under medical device, but they fall into that just by, let me say, accident. And then the QA RA people, they come later on into the game. And so a lot of processes were already lived within the software development team. And now there are some people engaged that are maybe more experienced into this regulations part, but maybe also a bit less into the software part. And they try to put some regulatory, let me say, flavor on the top of that. And frequently I see it a little bit like you have then two worlds. So the reality, how it is done, and the one how QA and regulatory affairs might have seen it in other industry or with a previous employer. And they try to create, as they are used to do it, with Word documents, with templates, with processes, formulas for change requests, for all the aspects that you are usually having when you produce such type of things. And this is usually exactly two parallel worlds. And when you deep dive a little bit, you have the feeling, okay, the developer just do this document because the QA guy asks for it, and the QA guy just asks for it because he only knows that. And this is exactly where I see there could be much more improvements into this area.
Exactly. And one thing is also that, as you've said, sometime, and I had this experience also with some of the projects we are running, we have some companies that are starting to develop those products. They have a software at the end, and when they arrive to this barrier to say, oh, we need to be certified, so then we need this and that and that, and we start to talk with quality people, they arrive, as you said, later on the project. Then I suppose some problems are starting, because all along the life of the development of the product, nothing was really created there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you try to do it retrospectively, and usually it's also very difficult. I've been auditing or preparing some of our customers for notified body audits, and you could sense that, okay, the developers, they can't really explain you how it is supposed to work from what the QA describes in the QMS, because actually that's not the way they live it, right? So if you describe more the way they live it, and you maybe add a little bit of what is exactly required to be compliant, then even the developers would find themselves in a better shape. I have the feeling in many cases they have the feeling they just created to make the notified body happy, but it's not exactly how it could work, because normally the whole chain of traceability, the whole set of requirements, tests, and all these type of things are also useful for the developer to ensure certain quality, to ensure that the traceability and the maintenance of the software is possible. I mean, when you compare with some other industry, I mean, some example, Netflix or Spotify, all these type of things, they deploy very regularly, even if they don't have regulations. But here they have a lot of quality process in mind, because there is a lot of business risk behind. And I think this is where we should maybe find the right balance. So my recommendation is rather to have a look at the process, how it is run by the developers, and then make the delta. So adding what might be missing from the compliance perspective, rather than creating a parallel world and then explaining to the software developer, this is how you should work now, and create this documentation just for me as a QA.
Exactly. I suppose also that one of the mistakes that is done by regulatory or quality is that they are coming, as you mentioned before, with their expectation, because they worked for big companies or other groups, etc., and they arrive with their experience and this, and they say, but maybe the development team has already some documents that they have created, but maybe they are not the best perfect document existing, but it's suitable for them or it's suitable for what they are doing. And quality comes and says, oh, I don't like this document, we should change it and add this and that, which is maybe a bit too much or this and that. I mean, I know that quality is doing that sometimes, so it's really that. So I suppose this is also this kind of gaps that should be also tried to be reduced, but to say, if it's something that is working, suitable, compliant to the regulation, compliant to the requirements, why do you want to make it more design with the color things?
And in many occasions, I saw that in that case, you make a lot of copy-paste, for example, work, because you just copy it into the template prepared by the QA to prepare for that. And at the end, you have then a certain redundancy that is created because there were already maybe some requirements maintained. So many developers, for example, they use a lot tools from Atlassian Suite, for example, Jira or Confluence, and a lot of documentation is already available there. But for some reason that I still don't quite understand, QA are usually more Word document based, and they ask to do some copy and paste there. And it's not only inefficient for me, it's also the risk of inconsistency. When you have two sources of truth, at some point, you no longer knows what is the reality. Is it what is in the Word document and what the developer use on the daily basis, right? So this is not only inefficient, it's also inconsistency that may occur over the time, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we see that, yes, even quality is making some mistakes sometimes, or regulatory are making some mistake. But the other point also for that, as you've said also, is that we think that the developers, the software developers, think that we are doing that for quality. If I can say that, I need to create this document for quality, I need to do that for quality, which is not the same as if you think that you are doing that for the authorities first, maybe, or for the final patient at the end. So it's more about here a conflict of department in that case.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I usually use the term, maybe you have heard about that, quality by design.
Yeah.
If you integrate the process steps as you expect them from your development team within what they are used to use in daily basis. So try to leverage the tool that they already know, because I know software developers, I was one, they are usually lazy. You can say it in a general way, and they are not really super interested to do a lot of documentation. But if you integrate those aspects within their normal tools that they use anyway, and it is useful for them on the daily routines of what their activities are, then I think you can bring them to really generate this quality. And this is what I mean with quality by design. The whole process is prepared for them, and they don't have the feeling they just do that on top to make the QA people happy or the notified body happy. But that's exactly what you said. They generate the quality all over the way, right, on what their process is looking like.
So is there any other major gaps here that we have missed here, or the things that are big problems that we can see also within these two departments when they're working together?
Yeah, I mean, I think one bigger gap is actually what I explained before. I think they don't necessarily understand each other.
Okay.
I think it has to do with training of the people. You know, that often quality people, they don't necessarily understand what it means to create a software and what are the relevant points to focus on, right? How to ensure that a software is developed in a qualitative way. It's not the same as developing an hardware piece of device, right?
Exactly.
And the vice versa world is also true. Good developers do not necessarily understand what is really in the different regulations. I saw that, maybe you saw the same. Many of them don't even know which regulations they are supposed to follow. I mean, IEC 62304 is not a super complex document. I mean, any software developer should be able to understand that. But in my experience, many of them didn't have a look at that, right?
Exactly. I have the experience with startups, with software as medical device startups. And yes, when we arrive to the point to discuss about quality management system, creation, etc., we mentioned the standard IEC 62304, and we show to them exactly what is needed, which class of device they are, and then define which document they are needed for each of those things. And yes, it's sometimes complex for them, because when we are showing to them, here is what is written, do you have a design development plan or document, and say, what is that? What should be inside, etc. So we have those training or explanation that we should be doing and explaining and telling them, here is what we are needing, here is what we could get. And I'm surprised sometimes when we are looking at some of those development steps, I would tell them, oh, we need this, and say, oh, what's that exactly? And we explain, say, oh, we have a document that is nearly similar to that. Can we show that to you? Does it fit to the requirements? And then we can discuss. But it's true that when you are on the hardware part, you had more the mindset of a waterfall project. Exactly. And here we are more in the agile, Scrum, etc. We are all those different way of thinking. And then it's really disturbing sometimes when you're at those projects, we have different elements and each element goes in its own pace, but at the end they have to meet all together, etc. So it's somehow disturbing here. One thing that I wanted also to say is mainly one thing that I have experienced also is about, as you mentioned, the misunderstanding between quality and developers or any other departments anyway. The way that I try to solve that is to bring them with me to the audit directly. So the idea is to say, okay, feel my pain.
Exactly.
To answer the request from the auditor. He asked me for that, and when I show him the document that you have created, which I told you it's not suitable, So now answer to him. Tell him why you think it's suitable, because during meetings with developers, sometimes say, no, it's suitable, it's fine, etc. So, okay, come to the meeting with me, come to the internal audit or to the audit. Okay, here is the auditor, explain him why your document is suitable, and he will explain to you why it's not, and then you can feel my pain when I try to go through this certification. So did you have also this kind of experience?
Very similar experience in the past. I think that's a good way to make software developer aware of what is the pain exactly. You formulated right. What are the questions that the QA tries to answer every day, right? And I would do even the same vice versa. Let the QA sit down together with the developer and look at what they are doing. Because exactly what you said before, when we do training, we see that in many occasions they have some artifacts that would be actually required for compliance, but they maybe name it differently. They have already processes in place. Usually it's a teamwork. They work in an agile way, so they need somehow some tickets to materialize. Okay, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. This comes actually very often very close to requirements already, what you have in here, right? Just maybe they name it differently, like usually they call it story or task or something. But that's mainly my strategy is that I rather do a kind of gap analysis. Let them explain what they do and see, okay, how can you make this mapping to what the regulations really ask you to do? And don't try to let them create yet another document completely separated, but try to integrate that within their processes, right? And many developers, I think, are happy about that because then they better understand it. And so they can defend it also better because that's the way they work. So they can't explain it differently to what is in the SOP. That's also the risk I see in many cases. They explain it something. When you read the SOP, it's totally different process that they were supposed to live. And there, well, you have a problem, Houston, right? You need to be able to explain what you are really doing and not what the SOP is describing.
Exactly. No, I think I completely relate to that. And yeah, communication, training, understanding how the other feels or what is exactly the work that the other is doing. And it's true that, for example, as we talk about software as medical device, which is a field that is growing and growing, we'll have a lot of people that will move from hardware to software, and then they will see a completely different culture. As I said before, we work in hardware, we work in a manufacturing plant where there are machines, we do a validation of a machine with oil, with metal, with things, etc. And now you arrive to a clean office with only computers, with people that are just typing, etc. And say, where is the product? It's in the machine. How? And we had also this issue about the production procedure, for example. How do I know that it's produced now, and what is the production? Because before I know I have a lot number, I have a serial number, or this and that. Now I have nothing. I mean, I cannot touch anything. So when should I say now it's developed and now it's produced with a version, etc.? So there are a lot of mindset that
I think that's not only for the manufacturer, but as well for the notified body. I had also some experience where they also wanted to come on site, and when they came on site, they just see a few laptops right where people were developing. So what do you want to see here? There is no big production process. It's just a laptop where you develop some code, right?
Exactly.
And I think they also have all difficulties here to understand really what are we talking about when we are talking about developing a software. I mean, there are many different quality process all over the course. How do you manage your source code? How do you collaborate with other colleagues? You know, I don't know if you're familiar with these aspects, but how do you manage branches? How do you merge your code with your colleagues? How do you perform the code review? All these aspects are not relevant when you produce a piece of hardware, right? But in the software world, this is actually where the quality also is developed in the product, right? So you should have also clear strategy about that.
Exactly.
And for that, you need to have experienced people to develop those strategy, right?
Hey, just a second. Do you need a EU, Swiss or UK representative? Then choose Easy Medical Device. We can represent you and also become your importer. Contact us at eo@easymedicaldevice.com.
And there are also new vocabulary or vocabulary that are existing actually on the standards that are not perfectly matching what's happening with the software. For example, we have maintenance requirements on the ISO 13485. How do we maintain that on this? We have infrastructure also. Is a computer my desk, my chair, my infrastructure, because it's where I'm working. And here we are talking also about servers that are used also. So maintenance of a server, how do we know the server is on the right place? So this is all the things that I learned also, because as I was working a lot with software companies, then we had to find exactly how it's working. We had just one big, discussion about cleanliness, because when they look at the ISO 13485, talk about cleanliness of the product, etc., and they think now they try to find a way to make it, and it's like cyber security or clean with the malware thing as that. So they were thinking that, but under ISO, it's more about cleanliness of sterilization, disinfection, etc. So you see, they try to make the efforts, but sometimes the match is not really there. So having also a quality and regulatory affairs person that is having this experience with software companies can accelerate also their questions about that.
And I think that's exactly what you said. Either you have the experience already, or you are willing to learn what is that. And I think training is an important component, especially software development is evolving so fast. I think you need to try to stay up to date as QRA to really understand what is going on in my company here, right? And I've been training several QA people that have no software developer background to understand exactly, okay, what is an agile process methodology, what is really software development about, what is cloud computing maybe also about. You talked about infrastructure. It's not about I install my server myself by putting a USB key into it and then executing a few things. Meanwhile, a lot of things are also automated. You might have heard about infrastructure as a code. You can really also, by just press a button, have a new server configured as you like. And those are all the things, I think if you never understand this, you can't really do QA/RA in such an environment, because how can you explain that? Of course, you can ask some experts, but you need to understand where are the quality aspects that for me are really relevant to check and to ensure we are compliant all over the path, right?
Exactly. And I think, as you said, even if you don't have the experience, the idea is really to communicate with the software developers, to really discuss with them and to try to brainstorm also what they are doing, how it can be matching with the requirements, and then finding a middle point. There will maybe be some mistakes there, but at the end, we are all learning. So yeah, this is the way that, or we contact you at Wega and then get the information.
I mean, those type of projects, a lot what we do is really, I would say, the human part of a change, right? So ensuring that all the people understand what is going on, right? I am a new person here. I need to understand exactly and map it to my expectation. We talked about it at the beginning. Expectation of the QA area guy is, okay, I create documentation. I show this documentation. What does that mean in this company here? And vice versa. The developer, we train them as well to understand the regulations and to map it to their know-how, right? And this is what I would say the human part of the whole project. And it's usually the bigger part, right? How you configure a tool, generate the corresponding documentation. For example, what we do a lot with developers, I like a lot tools like, might have heard about tools like Atlassian Suite or some other EQMS systems. Usually you try to bring a lot of these things within the tool. Okay, what do you need? You need a certain workflow, you need a certain maybe export of documents. All of that is usually relatively easy compared to the, okay, bringing the guys to talk to each other. But I think at the end, if you reach that, then you not only reach better compliance efficiency, but also better teamwork. Because I often experience that they see that, oh, I do that just for the QA guy. What does he want from me, right? I will do that, but that's the most boring part of my job, you know, this type of things. And I think this is the kind of mindset you can change by trying to bring those guys together, right?
Exactly. I think it's really important here. What we are saying is mainly about not doing things just because you think it's needed for a certification or whatever. The final goal is the final user, the customer at the end, to make it satisfy. So having a tracking documents of what you have done, how it was done, can help you to avoid a lot of mistakes, can help you to identify where is the issue directly, instead of you spending all the time to reviewing all your code, all your software, all the things that you have done there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is exactly the tools is really a central element of all of that. If you minimize the amount of interfaces, the amount of tools, I think at the end you can move anyone into the same direction and they can elaborate. So maybe the QA needs just a dashboard or certain reports on some of the tools you use. And this is what they will present, while the other use it more intensively. I think this is a good aspect that you can leverage when you want to behave those guys in the same direction.
Great. No, great. I really like this discussion because it's something that is really happening a lot within multiple companies. Here, as I've said, we talk specifically about software developers. We have talked before about marketing, but it can happen with any other department. The idea is always communication, training, understanding what the other is going through. And for the quality and regulatory affairs people is also to listen a bit, to not just come with their experience and try to change all the world, because at the end, nobody will follow you and it's not really a success for you then.
Yeah, and usually you don't have also the money to do that, because I mean, this is the time is money as well, right? When you are a small startup, you have a few developers and one person maybe for the quality. If you have them to create additional documentation, this is additional money, right?
Exactly.
And, I think this is also an argument that is important also to manage. You need to be efficient to also stay sustainable.
Exactly.
You want to be on the market at some point, and this costs effort. So you should really drive the efforts the best you can based on what exactly exists, and not based on the ideal world that maybe just a big diagnostic company with 10,000 employees can afford to do, right?
Exactly. No, I think it's a good point here. Okay, so Christoph, in terms of Wega, why people should contact you? Why exactly we need to maybe contact Wega and get some support from you?
I mean, we are exactly a lot of people within Wega that have a lot of experience in both. What are the regulations and what is it to be a developer? So as I explained at the beginning, I was a developer. That's the case with many of my colleagues. And this is, I think, why you should think about us, because we can really make the bridge between, okay, what are the requirements from a compliance perspective and what are the experience from different people. I think this is where we can guide in the most efficient way on how can this be performed, right? And we can as well help them on all these trainings we talked about, as well as helping on configuring tools to stick to these processes. And yeah, I think that's the main aspects that we are driving into this world. Yeah.
Great. And I will place all your contact details on the show notes so that people can directly contact you if there is any other question. If you have also a question for what we discussed today, you can go on the comments of the YouTube channel or the podcast channel to place your comments, and we'll try to answer to that. And if you have any question anyway, you can also contact me at info@easymedicaldevice.com, info@easymedicaldevice.com. Okay, Christoph, so it was really a pleasure to have you. It was really a great discussion. Thank you for that. And yeah, I hope all the information that we provided will help some companies to have a better environment of work between some different departments. I also understand what's the problem for each of the departments. So really, thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was really nice to discuss, and I see we experience a lot of common things.
Exactly.
So.
Great. Thanks, Christoph, then, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.